Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the 2022 Program Series Living Well Wednesday. My name is Jennifer LaSalle, the Family and Community Wellness Agent in the West Plains Extension District, and I will be your host for today. Our Living Well Wednesday is a virtual learning series hosted by K-State Research and Extension, family and consumer science professionals from across the state of Kansas. Many of our topics will touch on a wide variety of essential skills that empower you and your family to live, work, and thrive. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping rules. Be respectful and open of others throughout the presentation. Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A box and comments into the chat box. The Q&A box does have a feature where you can ask anonymously if you are more comfortable with that. Today's session will be recorded and posted to our Living Well Wednesday webpage, along with additional resources. You will be able to find all future and past programs on our website as well. Lastly, a friendly reminder, our Living Well Wednesday series will discuss a new topic every second and fourth Wednesday in January, February, and March over the lunch hour. Be sure to check our Living Well website for additional details on registration and topics in 2023. We do want to acknowledge that KSRE is an equal opportunity employer. Therefore, we do not discriminate against anyone. So if there is a special request or concern that you need us to allow for you to attend our programs, please reach out. We want to thank our presenters for joining us today. Christina Holmes, the Southeast Extension Specialist, Ashley Swati, the Northwest Extension Specialist, and Melinda Daly, the FACS agent in the Sunflower District. And with that, I will turn it over to today's presenters.
Hello, I'm glad you're all here today. I'm going to start off with make ahead meals for the holidays. And so my goals for you are to learn how to use your time wisely and prepare ahead for the holidays. If you plan ahead, you may be able to enjoy the holidays a lot more without the hassles of preparing every meal for a big crowd or even a small family. Preparing for the holidays, for the holiday meal can take a lot of time. And if you try to do it in a day, one day of your celebration, you might not have the time or space to cook everything you want in your oven. I know I have one oven, so I couldn't bake everything in one day. Holidays are to be enjoyed by the whole family, not just for those that don't have to spend hours in the kitchen. Next slide. So I'm going to be talking about some different things, and I'm using a resource called Cook Once, Eat for the Month, and you will have those resources given at the end of the slides. Also, there's another one from Kentucky that has some really good information about this. So first, you can save money, whether you work outside the home or stay at home. Busy schedules sometimes do not allow time to prepare dinner. You know, we have basketball games, we have other things going on. So this is a good way to help you out. Busy schedules often lead to eating out, which is more expensive than a home cooked meal. Having a prepared entree that you can simply put in the oven saves money and preparation time. Preparing a healthy meal is another benefit of this cooking method. It provides greater variety in the foods that you eat, which means less boredom with food and more nutrition. Make some quick and easy meals to freeze and then pop in the oven when you need them. There are many recipe books out there that are for freezer meals, so just check them out. Larger quantities of food may cost less than individual or small quantities. So you can make more and put some in the freezer for another day. So like you were going to make a casserole, you could do 2 casseroles and put one in the freezer, and then you'll have it for another day. It works really good. You can also prepare these meals ahead with family and friends. I've done this program in my county a couple times and had people sign up, and then we've made meals for 10 days. So we're talking about today, we're going to focus more on preparing meals ahead for the holidays. But you can do what it says, cook once, eat for a month. So, but it is really fun to work with other people. Foods may taste better as a new dish than they do leftovers. I know several people that do not like leftovers and they'll just throw them away. So instead of doing that, you can put half in the freezer and drag it out another day when you don't have time to plan or prepare a meal. It can also provide families with an effective tool to combat obesity. When you prepare your recipes yourself, you are in control of the ingredients and ultimately what your family is eating. Being in control of the meal allows you to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into your recipe. But perhaps the greatest benefit is how it can encourage their family to eat meals together at the table. Family meal times are slowly becoming a thing of the past. And that's really sad because you can get a lot of conversation at those family meals at the table. Next slide. So, preparing ahead for the holidays. Plan out the meals with family members, getting ideas what they like. Don't just put down meals you like. So work with everybody in your family. When choosing recipes, select recipes that will freeze well, including those containing meat, poultry, and fish. Other good recipe choices includes breads, baked goods, and many soups, stews, and casseroles. I already have some of those in my freezer ready for Christmas. So you can do it too. In the cook once, eat for a month fact sheet, you will find foods that freeze well and foods that don't. Make a list of needed ingredients. Write down all ingredients needed, even those you think you already have on hand. Use a thicker freezer bag. Don't use the ones that are regular because they might leak or tear. So make sure you get that on your shopping list. Create a shopping list. Go through the ingredient list item by item, checking off things that you have on hand and adding items needed to finish out your list. If you know the layout of the grocery store, organize your list of items to follow the layout. That makes it a lot easier than you're at this side of the building and then you have to go clear over the other end because you forgot something. So if you know the layout, it's a lot easier. Go shopping. If you have children, consider hiring a babysitter or have a friend or a family member watch them. Because sometimes if there's other people with you, you get distracted and then you'll forget something and you don't want to do that. Always a good idea to eat before you go shopping, and also study store ads for sales on needed items. You can save some money. Preparation, make a list of preparation steps to help the day run smoothly. The cooking day, start the day by following your preparation steps. Check them off as they are completed. When cooking, always keep in mind food safety basics, such as washing hands frequently and keep your hair tied back and being aware of temperatures. Use food thermometers to ensure safe temperatures have been reached. Clean up as you go. Don't wait and just have it all piling up. Clean, like you finish a dish, clean that up and then start. Enjoy. And by making some of the food ahead of time will allow you to enjoy the day a lot more. Next slide. So what's on your food list for the holidays? These are some things that I've made. Upside down pineapple sweet potatoes. They're really good. They're a little bit better for you than the other sweet potato casseroles and stuff. I've made the pumpkin cake roll. It freezes well. And I already have my icebox butterhorn rolls in the freezer because that's one of my family's favorites. So I want to say my focus for you today is to make your Christmas more relaxing and time for you to enjoy Christmas morning as much as any of your guests or families. So if you have any questions, do we have anybody? I don't see anything. So we'll go on with our next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. So really there's two schools of thought regarding menu and recipe modification around the holidays. Some people believe you should make that family traditional recipe, make it as directed, and enjoy it just this time of year. Maybe it's something you only have a couple times a year. Sherilyn said she makes a banana split cake. I know if I would recommend for her to modify that recipe, it probably wouldn't go as well, right? But there's other school of thought as well that says that maybe you should modify your recipes and your menus to make it as healthy as possible for yourself and your guests. And personally, I think it depends on the individual and the situation. If you're one person that maybe celebrates one family get together, eats in moderation when you can, and then gets back on track promptly afterward, you probably don't have to modify your recipes. But there's some of us that start celebrating at Thanksgiving and we party all the way through and celebrate all the way through New Year's Day. And if that's the case, and perhaps you've experienced that 1 to 3 pound weight gain every year due to the indulgence of this time of year, then perhaps we can modify some of our recipes and reconsider some of our menu items to make it healthier for both you and your guests. Next slide. Belinda just talked about the importance of enjoying this time of year. And if you're the individual that's doing the menu preparation, the grocery shopping, the cooking, and now I'm asking you to modify your recipes, it's going to make this whole time of year a stress and a burden on you. And so before you get overwhelmed, I want you to just focus on the stars. And that's a fact sheet that's connected with today's program. And that fact sheet talks about using those key ingredients that we have this time of year, whether it's sweet potatoes, apples, green beans, broccoli, and focus on those items and focus less on the toppings such as marshmallows or sauces or gravies that sometimes go on those items. We focus just on those key ingredients and make half your plate fruits and vegetables. The hope is that our plate is healthier. There's going to be less calories and fat from those added toppings, and it's going to be easier for you to prepare. Roasted broccoli is something you can drizzle a little olive oil on, add some garlic or some black pepper, and bake that. And it's easy to prepare, and it's hopefully going to be less stressful for you. Next slide. But there also is a situation where we can modify some recipes. And so one thing I would like to say before we start brainstorming what you're going to do different for cooking is if you're going to modify a recipe, and I'll go back to Sherilyn's banana split cake. She takes that to a family get together and it does not taste good because she's made some modifications. It may not go very well and she may not be invited to next year's Christmas dinner, right? But if we can make some small modifications, so maybe if her recipe calls for 2 packages of cream cheese, maybe she uses 1 regular and 1 low fat. You can make those small changes ahead of time and try it to see if it tastes good. And then you could try it again and make it for your holiday get together so your family can try that final product that you've tasted before. But thinking ahead of your menu, I included appetizers, side items, desserts, and beverages on the slide because some of those items are the ones that can really pack in extra calories, fat, sodium, and carbohydrates in our menu. And so thinking of your menu ahead of time, maybe it's not having to transform a recipe, but maybe it's offering something different. For our appetizers, maybe we could try a vegetable or a fruit tray for our guests to sample before that meal. Again, it's going to get more fruits and vegetables in their diet. It's going to be easy for you to prepare ahead of time, and it's going to be something that's going to add more color to your plate. Thinking about our side items, thinking about that previous slide, how can we make those more basic and healthier for us? So maybe we're going to offer sauteed green beans this year, or that roasted broccoli, or maybe just do sweet potatoes rather than the sweet potato casserole. As you think ahead for your menu, think about what menu items people really think about and hope for every year. My daughter loves my mom's cranberry salad. And if we were to modify that recipe, it would not go well, but she's flexible when it comes to her green beans. So she doesn't care. Maybe we do something different with another side item. Next are our desserts. Often our desserts are full of sugar or butter this time of year. And for some reason, from Thanksgiving all through New Year's, they're always available. So what can we do to modify our desserts to make them healthier, or what healthier options can we offer? And next are our beverages. As it gets cold, sometimes you just want that flavored coffee in the afternoon, or maybe you want a hot chocolate in the morning. And thinking about our dessert or beverages, sometimes those are the things that are adding more calories and fat than if we were to eat a piece of pie. And so to think about a beverage having the amount of calories and carbohydrates as a meal, we don't need to be adding a fourth meal on a regular basis throughout this holiday season. So maybe we can reevaluate our beverages that we offer. Next slide. So next I want to talk about sodium. So whether you or maybe a guest at your holiday get together has high blood pressure, thinking about our sodium in our recipes is important. Some people are what we call sodium sensitive, which means if they have more sodium than normal, their blood pressure can run higher. And if you're sampling these things on a regular basis, it can really have an impact on their blood pressure control. So one suggestion is to try to reduce your salt intake or salt by half in a recipe. Meaning if it calls for two teaspoons of salt, maybe try to reduce down to 1 teaspoon. It'll still have that salt flavor added to it. Probably won't impact the end product, but will reduce the sodium intake. So you think about 1 teaspoon of salt, it has 2,300 milligrams of sodium. If you're able to make those gradual transitions on several of your recipes, it will greatly reduce the amount of salt that we're consuming at your holiday get-together. But as you reduce the salt, we need to add other flavors back in. So get brave and start adding maybe some herbs and some spices to substitute and add that flavor so it's not lacking at the dinner table. Be careful with what seasonings you're adding. So a teaspoon of garlic salt has about 1,800 milligrams of sodium, when a teaspoon of garlic powder only has 2 milligrams. So grabbing the wrong bottle when you go to season something can really make an impact on your end sodium in that product. And always read our labels. Our canned goods often have a lot of added sodium in there, but thankfully they have a lot that are no added salt or sodium free. So compare your labels when you're looking at salad dressings, canned goods, or even some of your frozen items if they have some kind of a sauce added to them that could be high in sodium. Next slide. So often our sweet treats are what's common around the table around this time of year, whether it's our beverages, our cookies, our cakes, those kind of things. Thinking about a recipe, making a small change would maybe to reduce the sugar in a recipe by 1/4 to 1/3. So if a recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar, consider trying 3/4 a cup instead. You can also add pureed fruit instead of sugar in some of your recipes. So if you're going to make a banana bread or maybe a carrot cake, you could easily add some bananas or maybe some applesauce instead. But you will need to modify and reduce your fluid intake or fluid in that recipe by about 1/4 cup. Again, this is the thing you would probably want to prepare ahead of time. Make a banana bread ahead of time or make 2. And if it tastes good, you could freeze one for your get together and enjoy one ahead of time. Monitor your beverages. So a grande sugar cookie frappuccino has 61 grams of carbohydrates. That's about the amount of carbohydrates a woman needs at a meal. So again, that's when we're adding in that 4th meal worth of calories and carbohydrates. And be careful what you're drinking this time of year. And so maybe you would offer some fruit infused water, some unsweetened tea to help reduce the amount of carbohydrates and calories someone's consuming. If you choose to use artificial sweeteners in a product, make sure you read your labels. Often they're sweeter than what sugar would be. And so you may not need to add as much as whatever you would for regular sugar in a recipe. And if you do modify a recipe, and let's say it's sugar-free candy or something of some sort, you may also want to label that. That makes your guests feel like they're supported and they know what healthier options that they could pick at that meal. Next slide. I'm also talking about fats. So we think about our appetizers and our desserts. Often our appetizers would have sour cream, cream cheese, mayonnaise, and those can be high in fat. And so often we're kind of grazing on those items and may consume more than what we anticipate or plan. So if a recipe calls for a tablespoon of butter, that's adding over 100 calories and over 11 grams of fat. 1 cup of sour cream has 48 grams of fat and 492 calories. So if you could substitute that out with something such as Greek yogurt, a fat-free Greek yogurt has 0.9 grams of fat and 134 calories and would provide extra calcium. So the Greek yogurt really goes good as a base for dips. So a fruit dip, you can use a vanilla Greek yogurt, or for, let's say, like maybe a seasoned or herb dip, you can add a plain Greek yogurt. That would help reduce your calories and your fat. You can also try reduced fat options, such as skim milk or non-fat or reduced fat items. Just be careful if you are going to bake with something. If you're going to use a fat-free item, it could affect the end product. So be careful with that. Again, when you're reducing fats and reducing sugar and salt, those items can really have more of a role in your baked goods than just that flavor. And so you're going to want to try it ahead of time. But if you reduce sugar, it can reduce the caramelization or the color of that item. Fat and sugar also provide moisture in your end product. And that salt brings out that natural sweetness in things. So what I would recommend, don't stress, enjoy your holiday season, make small modifications. If there's something that you really want to make a big change on, then try that ahead of time to make sure your recipe turns out as desired. Thank you. Next slide.
Okay, we have some great information here. Thank you, girls. So safe and tasty holiday leftovers start with safe, original holiday meals. No one wants to be responsible for making their family sick from a holiday meal. Like Christina said, if you try and jazz up a recipe too much and it's nasty, you might not get invited to next year's meal. Well, if you get people sick, you also might not get invited to the meal next year. So, food safety is so important. So, I throw it into every conversation I have about food. Many years ago, I got sick from a holiday meal. So, I know the importance of it, but the truth is that every year, 1 in 6 Americans, so that's about 48 million people, get sick from foodborne illness, and that's each year. So food safety really starts with us and our clean hands and surfaces. So make sure that you wash your hands for 20 seconds with hot soap and water before you begin preparing food. Also, wash off your surfaces and have clean utensils and cutting boards ready to go. That clean is our first step to food safety outlined from the CDC. The next step to food safety is to separate. So then we must be vigilant to not cross-contaminate ready-to-eat foods with raw, uncooked foods. So for example, if you're cooking a turkey, and also need to cut fruit or veggies for a fruit or veggie tray, don't use that same unwashed cutting board to prepare the raw turkey and then cut the fruit or vegetables. Give your cutting board a good wash before preparing the fruit, or better yet, just use separate cutting boards to prepare each item. Now it's time to cook the food, the third step. So be sure to cook your food to safe internal temperatures. And that's steaks, chops, and roasts at 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Ground meat is 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and all poultry and leftovers are 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And the only way that you can really tell is by a food thermometer. You can't tell if food is done by how it looks or the color or really the texture. We get that a lot of questions about that, but the only way you can tell is by a safe, collaborated food thermometer. So prepare ahead and make sure that you have your food thermometer ready to roll out of the package, put batteries in it so it's ready when you're ready to cook, and know those food safe internal temperatures. And then the last step there is chill. Once everyone is done eating, it's time to chill those leftovers. And this step is really critical for safe food. Make sure that you refrigerate or freeze those leftovers within 2 hours if you're at room temperature. And I know that during the holidays, we are meeting with friends and families that we don't see all year. And this might be the time that we can catch up with them and chat. But I encourage you to really be vigilant and get the food either in your refrigerator or frozen within 2 hours. And just keep in mind that 2-hour rule. And if you know that you're not going to be eating the leftovers within 3 to 4 days, I encourage you to either throw those away or freeze them. Freezing is the better option than having food waste, of course. And when we refrigerate and freeze leftovers, put them in a shallow container so that the food will cool down quickly. All right, now on to using those leftovers that have been refrigerated or safely frozen. Of course, again, we want to wash our hands before preparing the leftovers. And reheat only what you will eat to 165 degrees. That really helps us just keep the food safe so that we're not reheating and cooling too many times. And don't use the slow cooker to reheat leftovers. If you want to reheat leftovers in the microwave or on the stove top, and then transfer those leftovers to a slow cooker where it can maintain at least 140 degrees Fahrenheit, that is okay. But don't put cold leftovers in your slow cooker and use that to heat it up. And as I said before, use those refrigerated leftovers within 3 to 4 days for food safety and quality. And then use frozen leftovers within 2 to 6 months for best quality. Now, for food safety in the freezer, as long as your freezer is at 0 degrees or below, it can really be safe indefinitely. But trust me, for quality, you're going to want to eat that 2 to 3 months, I would say, but 2 to 6 months for best quality. And while your freezer should be at 0 degrees or below, your refrigerator should be at 40 degrees or below. So get a thermometer in there and check that out before the holidays. Now, time to revamp leftovers. Now, I'm really not ideas of how you can revamp our leftovers. So an easy ingredient swap here is that we can just use turkey in place of chicken in any of your favorite chicken recipes. So a chicken pot pie, turkey noodle soup instead of chicken noodle soup, any kind of chicken casserole, you name it. Get creative here. Omelets using ham, turkey, and any of those vegetables from your vegetable tray, or roasted broccoli that Christina was talking about that got me really hungry for roasted broccoli. You can create a casserole. And here there is a picture to the right on a K-State Research and Extension publication of using recipes with what's on hand. So you can use a recipe. You can create a meal of mixing up some of your leftovers with some of the items that you may have in your cupboard that need to get used up. Get creative with that too. A quesadilla with turkey and leftover sweet potatoes and a whole wheat tortilla with a little cheese sprinkled on it. And this one's really cool. A pinwheel wrap using turkey, dressing, and cranberry sauce on a whole wheat tortilla. And of course, kind of how creative I get in my house sometimes is just using your leftover turkey, ham, and rolls and just making a turkey and ham sandwich. Sometimes that's all you need for lunches. If you guys have any other creative ideas, throw it in the chat and I'd love to hear it. So if there are any questions, we would love to hear them, or any comments before we wrap up. Christina, do we have any?
There is one question, and is it safe to keep food after it has been on a buffet and so many people have dished out of it?
Well, one thing I would recommend is making sure that it gets put back in the refrigerator within the 2 hours at room temperature. And you know, I'm careful whenever I eat. I make sure that I wash my hands before using a communal utensil. So encourage everybody to wash their hands beforehand and don't double dip, and get it in the refrigerator or freezer quickly.
Any other questions?
Sure,
Go ahead, Ashley.
safely.
Is it safe to put leftover turkey or ham in the garage if the temperature is 30 or below?
In the garage, as in
I think
the,
assuming that the garage temperature is cold enough. Honestly, I would suggest trying to find space in the refrigerator, or maybe, if you have a family member going home not too far away, just because you don't know if that temperature is going to maintain at that temperature at all. And something happens, it warms up, maybe the heat of the house because you've been cooking, it gets hotter. I hate for you to serve those leftovers to a family member if that temperature has been in the danger zone, or that, and held at improper temperature.
yes, and sometimes we receive the question, well, it's cold outside. Can I just put my food outside? We don't recommend that either because of the temperature fluctuations. And if the sun could be hitting it directly, get it in the refrigerator or freezer. Now, to save room, you can put your beverages, your bottled waters outside, but keep the refrigerator space for the food. And if you need more space, now is a great time to clean out your refrigerator so that you can prepare and have plenty of room available.
And Charlotte, another thing, like Melinda suggested earlier, is you may stock up on some freezer bags ahead of time. And if you live with a small household, throwing all of that turkey or ham in the freezer is going to be overwhelming when you do thaw it out. And so maybe freezing it in smaller sections so you could pull it out on someday you don't have anything prepared for dinner, you can have leftover ham, or you can throw it into a baked potato soup or something like that. So maybe put in small bags, freeze it, and that way it'll save space in your refrigerator for other leftovers.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions or comments, Jennifer, we will kick it over to you.
Okay, thank you, ladies. That was very informative and lots of good ideas.
Jennifer, she said she has one more question coming in.
Okay.
Hold on, you might hold on 1 second. Charlotte, whatever your question is, we're ready for you. How long can we store turkey in the refrigerator before cooking? Ashley, Melinda?
Yeah, I was gonna say, usually on your turkey, or you can find it, but it will tell you how long you have to have it out to be thawed by that point. And I really wouldn't go too much over what they recommend. So, like if you have, I can't remember, but if you have a 15-pound turkey, it might take, 3 days to get that thawed in your refrigerator. You shouldn't thaw it out on your countertop or really in the sink with water. You can, but it's safest just to put it in the refrigerator. But I wouldn't keep it before too much longer than that. I mean, you could.
Yeah.
And I also posted a guide from the USDA about how to safely thaw your turkey, because it depends on how big it is as well. So there isn't kind of a one set number. If it could be 8 pounds or 18 pounds, it's going to thaw at a different rate of time.
And you should allow approximately 24 hours in the refrigerator for every 4 to 5 pounds of bird. And when you do thaw that out in the refrigerator, make sure it's a pan with a lip on it and put it in the bottom of your refrigerator in case any juice should drip down. So definitely go to that USDA site, because safe food handling, happen throughout the whole process, and thawing is a definite way that we have to keep our food safe. Great question.
And it may be a good idea to wipe out your refrigerator too after you've thawed your turkey in there. So that way, when you go through it, put your leftovers in there, you're not going to cross-contaminate something with juices that maybe have dripped in your refrigerator. All right, Jennifer, I think that was all the questions. You're good to go.
Thank you, ladies. Very informative and great questions. Well, we want to thank Christina, Ashley, and Melinda again for taking time to do this presentation. I'm sure many of us learned something new to take home and practice. We do encourage you all to complete our survey by using the QR code on the screen. This will also be sent to you right after and will be available on the Living Well website. Feel free to provide comments and suggestions. We do hope that you will continue joining us every second and fourth Wednesday. January 11th will be a brief intro to Radon in Kansas residents. And on January 25th, the topic will be legal documents everyone needs. And lastly, if you would like more information or additional resources, please reach out to our local extension agents. If you're not sure where your local office is, you can find it by going to ksre.kstate.edu. You will be able to hover over your county and find the location of your local office. And again, we want to thank you and have a good rest of the afternoon and a happy holidays. Thank you.
Did we address the survey up above? Make sure you fill out the survey so we get your see what you thought of the program. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.